Excellencies, Madam Chairwoman, distinguished speakers, ladies and gentlemen, I am particularly grateful to the organizers and to you for having designed a webinar at the cutting edge of research and public debate. As evidence of my personal commitment and of high regard of Ca' Foscari University of Venice, suffice it to say that last month, with a group of 120 international law scholars from all over the world, I have signed the Oxford Declaration about international law protections against foreign electoral interference through digital means. Today's session of the International Forum on Digital and Democracy was supposed to be hosted in the Auditorium Santa Margherita, an historical building from the 9th century, initially built as a church and dedicated to St. Margaret, later transformed in a beautiful conference room belonging to Ca' Foscari University. To protect us from COVID-19 virus, we need instead to connect virtually. But the opportunity to meet in Venice at Ca' Foscari University is only postponed. I will be pleased to welcome you all here for the second edition of the forum in 2022. Thank you very much, and I wish you a successful webinar. Buon lavoro.
Thank you, Professor Marrella. My name is Patrizia Feletig, and I chair Copernicani Association. I welcome you to the first edition of International Forum on Digital and Democracy. I'm honored to open this premier global discussion on how to mobilize digital technology for democracy and good government. The forum has received the appraisal of the Italian President, Medaglia del Presidente, and the patronage of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. I thank all those helping this event to happen. Our organizing partners, Reimagine Europa, Ca' Foscari University, and Fondazione Cini. Unfortunately, we are not meeting in presence in Venice. However, we are honored to be able to host you virtually while being blessed by the endorsement of the European Commission, UNESCO, and SDSN, including the support of Fondazione PNR and Euroconsumers. Thanks also to our knowledge partners, ALEA, Digital Enlightenment, So Big Data, the Science Post Cybersecurity Association. The idea of the forum was forged almost a year ago during a conversation with Jeffrey Sachs on the 2030 agenda. We all acknowledge that digital technology is pivotal to make the 17th global goals a reality over the next 10 years. If embracing innovation will facilitate equal, sustainable, and inclusive growth across the world, this is all more true for promoting peace and individual rights. However, the question is how to harness advanced digital technologies in order to drive positive outcomes on policymaking process, on functioning of parties, on civic engagement, on electoral turnout, and on information integrity. As Copernicani, an association which envisions innovation as a key change for the country system, we started to develop the concept together with Romano Prodi, and we came out with quite a bold project to promote a multi-stakeholder approach to shine the line on democracy in digital age, bringing together academia and policymakers to address the concern on how digital tech exploited for political purposes is challenging democracy, and how to steer the responsible deployment of new technology to restore trust in democratic institutions, trust in information, and ultimately trust in one another. As a whole, how digital and democratic governance can tend towards a sustainable evolution. And here we are. And we are glad you tuned in to join the discussion. Now let me share with you some practical information. We have set up a competition, Best Paper Award, with a hefty endowment, $1,000. The audience can vote a paper by clicking the button on the screen, Rate Paper. You have time to evaluate the papers until tomorrow. The winner will be announced at the end of the forum during Jeffrey Sachs' closing remarks. During the coffee breaks and after the session, we'll open specific chat rooms for networking where the audience can exchange informal conversation with the speakers and other participants. This meeting will not be registered. There will be a Q&A time with the Commissioner Jourova, and you are requested to place your question on the chat in order to be picked up by the moderator. Same rule will apply if you wish to ask a question to the panelists of Roundtable. Pandemic and Democracy. I inform you also that we activated a channel with Italian translation of the talks. Just press the Italian flag on your screen. And now I am delighted to pass the floor to Professor Manuel Castells, whose work on the network society and information age has shaped the way we think about relation between digital and society. He's chairman of Reimagine Europa, Taskforce on Democracy and Digital Society. Professor Castells, the floor is yours.
Hello, how are you? Good morning to everybody. Let me first of all thank very sincerely the organizers of this meeting, this important forum, very timely, and particularly my colleague Erika Widegren for her invitation as part of our joint work on Reimagine Europe, an entire set of issues on which the European Union and the principles of Europe are increasingly depending. Let me introduce this forum with a few remarks on the crisis of democracy and how in the digital age there are a number of elements that are in fact deepening this crisis, and how could we use precisely this new digital environment to revitalize democracy. First, I have to remind you that we are living through, in this moment, a very serious crisis of the principles of democracy that are being challenged in multiple contexts. First, refusing to accept results of the elections in many countries in the world, starting with Trump in the United States in 2020. All over, also rejecting the legitimacy of political opponents, polluting the public debate with fake news and campaigns of personal attacks, increasing distrustful of the citizens vis-a-vis institutions and politicians, as I have shown with data in my recent book, Rupture. Moreover, the Economist Intelligence Unit Index of Democracy, started in 2006, shows the fast deterioration of the practice and belief in democracy. Under such conditions, there has been a growing shifting of the political debates and the political decision-making to the judicial system, and then politicizing and trying to control politically the judicial system, calling into question the principle of separation of powers. International institutions, such as the United Nations and the European Union, come under pressure from anti-democratic groups and governments. And in this context, digital social networks, which are now the preeminent space of communication and which are not under the control of anyone, not even from the internet corporations, as the increase of traffic of all kind is critical for their business model. These networks of communication are amplifying the crisis, amplifying fake news, amplifying the distrust. We certainly cannot and should not control the internet, as freedom of expression is paramount. But we have to deal with the issue of the uses of internet to delegitimize democracy because of its effects in disintegrating trust in institutions and among social and political actors. In this context, the pandemic makes it much worse because the proliferation of conspiracy theories, such as QAnon and others, and because negationism is on the rise, including the negation of science, objectivity. In fact, we are witnessing a new assault on reason, as in the worst times of humankind. And so safety measures are required also, and the conditions of the pandemic, health considerations impose certain controls. And this is, in fact, resisted by many citizens precisely because they do not have trust in the institutions, and this deepens the distrust. At the same time, some governments use the pandemics as a pretext to restrict liberties. And therefore, there is an interaction between the two processes. On the one hand, there is increasing negationism, increasing distrust. Governments have to take care of health measures and impose certain restrictions. Some governments use the pandemics also as a pretext to restrict liberties, and citizens, because they do not trust governments to start with in a large proportion, then they resist these measures, and this deepens even more the crisis of democracy. The way out of this spiraling crisis, including the crisis that is brewing in the digital social networks, requires a number of urgent measures and policies. First, measures of regeneration of governance with transparency at the forefront. Second, in a public debate and public participation in decision-making at all levels. We must be able to restore the trust by practicing participation and connection between governments and citizens. Third, we need to foster an agreement between political parties of all ideologies and orientations on some common rules of civility. Without this, everybody loses. There are no winners in this downward spiral, only destruction. We also need an active communication policy from political institutions, opening up avenues of information to the mainstream media and also through internet to citizens at large. It is essential that citizen groups committed to democracy go into an active intervention in the social networks, as well as supported by institutions that should be more present in the social networks, debunking fake news. It's no way that social networks are going to be simply tamed by censorship or government control. It is essential that all citizens and all institutions are aware that it is in the space of digital communication where the distrust on democracy and the breakdown of the rules of common civility is happening. And therefore, we have to actively intervene in that space. And we do need a regulatory framework of democratic practice for internet companies without censorship. But we need new regulations. We have seen that these days in the United States, Facebook is facing divestiture because it is critical that in a world of digital information, we fight against the formation of oligopolistic structures that block the capacity of citizens at large and institutions to develop their autonomous communication strategies. We also need some technological measures, such as requiring the companies to install programs that exist today of detection and elimination of robots-led communication. Robots do not have the right to free expression, not yet at least. We also should require, as political institutions in democratic countries, to activate the use of already existing programs to label some of the information propagated in the social networks as not reliable, as in fact Twitter has done repeatedly with Trump's statements. I think to coordinate and create a new political and technological environment, the European Commission should call for a sort of état généraux on digital communication and democracy with the participation of governments, communication companies, and citizen groups. This could be organized digitally over a period of time and detecting jointly some of the key obstacles along the lines suggested by the Vice Presidency for Transparency of the European Commission, and we could reach some minimum common denominator of interacting toward a communication environment that is not polluting but enhancing the capacity of societies to communicate, debate, and participate. In conclusion, I would say that democracy is at risk, even in Europe. It could be the most damaging victim of the pandemics. Digital networks are in fact amplifying this risk, but digital networks are also the field of action where citizens and democratic institutions could mobilize, counter the threat, and create a new culture of trust, transparency, and communication. It is really time to act before it is too late. Thank you for your attention.